Mayor of the City of New Orleans. Panelist, Melanie Campbell, President and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. And Michael Franklin, Executive Director of Speechwriters of Color.
Good morning, Essence. Good morning, Essence. Good morning, New Orleans. What's the best city in the universe? I need to hear you say it real loud. What's the best city in the universe? Unless except it's your hometown. But since New Orleans is our hometown, what's the best city in the universe? All right, good morning. Great to be with you. I am honored to be able to moderate this panel, and I have our colleagues with me. So let me begin. Marc Morial here. I'm proud to lead the National Urban League, one of the nation's historic civil rights and urban advocacy organizations, the largest that provides direct services and focuses on the urban community. And we may be in your hometown. We've got 92 affiliates all across the nation. I've got powerful, influential, passionate people here with us this morning. And we want to talk about civil rights. Civil rights. Derrick Johnson, I want to go to you first because the NAACP, founded in 1909, has been in the forefront of civil rights and has advanced so many important gains for our people. But now we are in the midst of a great crisis. From your perspective, what is that crisis?
Well, the crisis as we see it now is a recalibration around the role of government and how this government sees people and what rights they should have. Historically, the civil rights movement have really stood on a three-legged stool. Our aspiration for the future, education, our ability to participate in public policy making, our franchise, the vote, and our ability to negotiate for our labor, whether individually or collectively, so that we're not exploited for cheap or free labor. That's the three-legged stool, and everything kind of grows out from that. And we've seen this country go through several iterations around policy priorities. But now, with the passage of this most recent bill this week, they want to redesign and redefine who should be seen as human beings, who should be entitled to citizenship, and how our tax dollars are used in the communities in which we live in.
Give Derrick a round of applause. He leads the NAACP. Melanie and Janai, I'm going to ask this question to both of you all because I think it's important that we always address this. Some people may say, not necessarily our allies, that the aims of civil rights have been accomplished, that black people and other people of color have made enormous progress, and that any challenges that you face are of your own making and doing. That narrative is prevalent in certain quarters of this nation. I don't agree with it, certainly, but Melanie and Janai, how do we confront that narrative? And we have leaders here. When they hear that narrative, how do you confront that narrative with facts and truth?
Thank you, Marc, and thank you, Essence, and thank you for the Global Forum for making sure we have a party with a purpose. And you being, I would say, founding son of Mayor when this started, it is always a blessing to be here. Briefly, I think we have to always remember that we've been here before in different ways. So if you think about the journey for African Americans, black folks in this country, we have to always know that we have always had to fight. And if you look at the first Reconstruction, when we came out of slavery, what we had to do at that moment to fight for our rights, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment that my sister will go deeper into, right? And having the law on our side to get us out. And then there was what? A backlash. And then that took forever. And then we moved to the 1950s, where we had to fight in the 50s and the 60s. We talk about the civil rights movement of that day. and then we fought and we won. You think about the March on Washington, 1963. Then you think about the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, and then we have a what? A backlash. And then we had the audacity as black people to take our political power that we gained, and we elected the first black president. And then we turned around and we elected the first vice president, and almost did what? Elect the first woman, South Asian, black woman president. And now we're in the backlash. And the backlash was swift. And the backlash wants to keep us off of our game, keep us confused, and there's nothing we can do. But we are resilient people, but we have to learn from that history, learn from the mistakes that we made, and unite as we are doing, and with others not even in this room, that we are in this fight. We help build this country, and we have to be bold to understand that we are not going anywhere, we are not going to be erased, but we also have to take care of ourselves in the process.
Absolutely. Give Melanie a big round of applause. Thanks for that response. Janai, let's come to you. Same question.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Janai Nelson. I am the President and Director-Counsel of the Legal Defense Fund. And my sister Melanie just gave you a whole law class on the Constitution and the civil rights statutes that continue to protect us. And let me say that they will have you believe that our civil rights statutes that we fought for, that we put in place that benefit black people and every other group in this country, that somehow those laws don't still hold weight, and they do. So we are not ceding any of that territory at all and are fighting to defend all of those laws. And you're right, that makes some people think because we have these protections that somehow we have not been earning our way and earning all of the successes that we have achieved. Right. And to that I say this, there has never been a moment in this country's history where black people have had unfettered freedom and access and an equal playing field to realize our full potential. There's not one day in this country where every black person could just wake up and be who they were destined to be by God without a racist obstacle or system preventing them from realizing that potential. And so what we've done over the course of the past 85 years as an institution, we have worked to create laws to force this country to live up to the ideals and promises of the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, and obviously the 13th Amendment, which emancipated us from slavery. But that fight is far from over. And until all of us are free, until all of us have unencumbered access to education, to economic prosperity, to the right to vote and to determine our futures, until we are free from a criminal legal system that is predatory, that has locked up our children for generations, we are not all free. And therefore, whatever successes we have are not only hard-earned and well-fought ones, they defy the very systems of this country that are meant to oppress us.
Let's give Janai Nelson a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Shavon and Michael, and Michael is Executive Director, Chairman of Speechwriters of Color. Shavon leads the National Council of Negro Women. So this is a question about generational and gender. So in research, polling, and conversations in the community on politics and other issues, there does seem to be a gender within the black community and generational divide. Now, I might say it's not completely new, but is it more acute today? And maybe both Michael and Shavon, we'll go to you, Michael, first. You can maybe define it and talk about it, because what we have to do in our community is discuss things and not suppress things and just say, oh, that ain't the truth, that ain't the fact. Or some people say, yeah, it's gonna tear us apart forever. So let's level set. What say you?
Absolutely. And first, I just want to thank everyone for being here, because when we have this movement, it requires that we come together, and the messages that we articulate and the messages that we dictate are so important towards moving people. And so oftentimes if we're caught up in a conversation, that conversation ends up not happening because we're too stuck in our ways, too stuck in the mud of what we believe in, and we have to be real and root that in truth. And so when we started Speechwriters of Color, we recognized this was in the height after the murder of George Floyd, that there needed to be an opportunity to stop bad messages from coming out, because you saw all of these organizations, corporations, having these messages that were not only tone deaf, but they were clearly not able to resonate with anyone across generations. We saw civil rights leaders being able to condemn them for not showing up to support our communities well. We saw business leaders seeing that they were not able to be supported well. And so by bringing in this next generation of communicators, we're leaning into the tradition of the civil rights movement, because it's great orators in churches, it's great journalists, it's great folks who share messages across different mediums that allow us to build a movement together. And what we've been able to do with Speechwriters of Color is providing the opportunity, regardless of the medium. Sometimes it's a speech, sometimes it's an op-ed, but now it's a TikTok, now it's a headlines, now it's something that's bite-sized, towards being able to ensure that we can have a message that makes a difference. Because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of BS out there that people don't want to resonate with, and we got to cut through it. And sometimes it's not going to be the things that folks are reading right now, but it's making sure that we're able to show up where people see us and where people hear us, and have the opportunity to be accessible, to push back and give that conversation that we're looking for.
Give him a big round of applause. Thank you, Michael, for that. Shavon.
I'm about to hire you. I think that, first of all, thanks for the opportunity and for the Global Black Economic Forum. I think one of the things that's really interesting, I lead an organization that'll be 90 years old this year. But what we have found is that in many of our institutions, we have not dealt with the impact of toxicity and intergenerationalism. And the toxicity that comes from is really rooted in methods. It's really rooted in methods. What I realize about most of us in our different generations is that we actually want the same thing. It's the how we go about it that's been the challenge on the ground. And what I want to push back on is, we're not against each other, we're against each other's methods. And then what happens is when you get against each other's methods, then it becomes personal. Yeah. Because my method was mine to have, and now there's someone that wants to take that over. As a woman in a civil rights space, we just launched a campaign at NCNW called We're the Home of the 92%. The 92% are the black women from every background who made a decision and got an A for their decision because they got it right. But the reason why we're doing that messaging is because it takes black women to message to black communities. What we're clear on is that the gender issue, it's an issue when we make it an issue. Over 80% of black men actually voted correctly too. I don't want to diminish the brothers here.
That's right.
But what we do have to get at is then, how does misogyny show up in other institutions inside of black spaces? I'm a preacher in a black church. Right? That's a space where there's misogyny. There's spaces where black women are not given the same play, given the same access, and we're still fighting for equal pay for black women too. So at the end of the day, the ability to deal with gender in our community is an issue, but it should not be an issue that takes us so far from the real goal, which is to liberate our people in advocacy and activism, but also bringing institutions, bringing young people together to be able to activate on the same page. Because look, there's not been a fight that we've ever lost when we were together. That's how we got all that legislation passed. And so I want us to, listen, in this black joy we're in essence, activating this. They can't come for us unless we let them come for us. And that's about us collectively activating together.
Let's give Shavon a round of applause. Thanks for that conversation. Let me set the next question up this way. This Essence Fest is now 31 years old. Let's imagine that we were in the year 2000. 2000, 25 years ago. And I sat on this panel and prognosticated. And I said, within 25 years, we will have a black president.
Wow.
Within 25 years, we'll have a black vice president.
Wow.
Within 25 years, we'll have a black attorney general.
Wow.
Within 25 years, we'll have a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Wow.
And 25 years from now, we'll have 5 black people serving simultaneously in the United States Senate. And then I said, and the nation will also have elected the first avowed white nationalist supremacist to be elected. So I'm going to go to Derrick and Janai. How do we reconcile that when you step away from that and you look at it, you said that would be tremendous progress, especially compared to the previous 25 or 50 or 100 years? How do we reconcile that? Because if I had stood on the Essence stage and said that in the year 2000, they'd be taking me out of here to go get some good mental health assistance. They say he's dreaming, he's being aspirational, and maybe we hope, but that's not going to happen. How do we reconcile, Derrick and Janai, this?
So one's ability to acquire a position or a title isn't a plan. Just because we got someone elected or appointed, it doesn't speak to the need to have long-term planning. In 2000, we also began to see the erosion of the black political machinery across the country that actually created the momentum to get the president or the vice president or the Supreme Court entity. We began to allow folks come into our community under new systems, 527s or whatever you call it, and began to hire our folks or not hire our folks to turn out votes and not accelerate our ability to leverage our political power. We conceded our political power because we started seeing people with titles. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Just like New Orleans, when Marc's father was the mayor, we had Coleman Young. And then you had Marion Barry. And then you had Maynard Jackson. And I can go on and on. They created systems of political power so people can get hired for livable wage jobs, get contracts that we couldn't get before, make sure that systems were more accountable to the needs and interests of our communities. Positions are not plans. And we need to get to the place where we have long-term planning, and in the plan, we get people in position, but not assume just because someone is in a position that they're gonna do what needs to be done because they don't have an agenda that's informed by us.
Give Derrick Johnson a round of applause, a great insight. Janai.
So you're talking about one turn of the century, and if you go back a century before that, we know that when black people were emancipated, there were civil rights statutes that came not too soon after that were immediately opposed. So even though we had just come out of centuries of slavery, they were already saying, and when I say they, I mean not only lawmakers, but the Supreme Court of the United States said in the 18th century, there has to be a point where, or in the 1800s, there has to be a point where black people stop being the special favorites of the law. We still had marks of shackles on our wrists.
Right.
We still had literal people who had been enslaved with welts on their back from a whip being told that they were the special favorites of the law. And so I bring us back to that history just to say, we have always faced opposition whenever there's been even a bit of progress, because this country was never meant for black people to succeed. And yet, we have done so. We have protected ourselves and many others by fighting for this country to be an actual democracy with the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that we're celebrating the 60th anniversary of this year. We have done those things. And so the question I think we need to be asking ourselves is, in that complicated back and forth, in that history of resistance and resilience that we possess, what do the next 25 years look like? Because we know that in that time period, America will become a majority people of color population. It will be a plurality society, meaning that black people, Latino people, Asian people, white people, people of every background will be living together, and there will be no majority that dominates if democracy prevails. What we're experiencing now is a growing white minority trying to hold on to power at all costs, with no moral restraint, with absolutely no check on the lawlessness of this administration. And we have to seize this moment as an opportunity to do something radical, as we did when we did it in the turn of the last century, what we did in the middle of the last century with the civil rights movement. This is now a moment for refounding, reimagining, and reestablishing what it means to be an American in this next iteration of our country.
Thank you very much. Let's give Janai. Now, Shavon and Melanie and Michael, very quickly.
Yes.
You are sitting in front, let's imagine this, a room of aspiring people. They're running for office in 2026.
All right.
They're preparing to run for the big house in 2028. I want you to give them 3 things you expect, demand, and require of them if they're going to earn your support and the support of the people you represent. Very quickly, 3 things.
I demand they repeal the big, beautiful bill that just got passed. Yes. I also demand that they offer equal pay as a standard across this country. And I also would say that health care becomes a right and not a privilege.
Excellent answer. Melanie?
Well, I'm not going to be obedient. I'm saying what we better do. How many people in here are in here from the South? Okay? When we talk about the power we have, and so goes the South, so goes the nation. So we have the numbers. We have to maximize those numbers. I see a brother over there in the corner wearing the Power of the Ballot T-shirt. All right? Stand up, my brother. Right? That's because of my shirt, too, right? But it says what? It says we will not be erased. We will not be moved. We have the power to use it. Let's make sure that we take the South back, and we will take care of the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand. Great answer.
Yep.
Michael?
Yep, and I think as we navigate the next years, we have to operate with purpose, power, and possibility, because we have to be intentional with how we act and intentional with how we organize. We have to recognize that building power doesn't just come from electoral office, but it's about building community and narrative power, because we must set the agenda and we must reimagine the possibilities of what we can do, because Black people are excellent. We are joy. We are the architects of so many amazing things, and we owe it to ourselves to build systems, to rebuild institutions that will be able to serve us, because when Black people are centered at what we want to solve, we are able to make things that work best for everyone.
Amen. There it is.
So let me offer, before we close, I say to them, I'm tired of drive-by politics.
Come on.
I'm tired of you showing up at the NAACP National Urban League Convention, in essence, during election year. I never laid eyes on you, and you never laid eyes on us. I'm tired of drive-by politics, where you walk in and you come in, you crowd the aisle to the pulpit of the church the week before the election, and I never saw you before. Tired of drive-by politics. I'm tired of politicians that play uptown and pray downtown. They got one message over here and another message over here. And now it's time to set the marker down that we have worked too hard. We've been the foundation of too much success politically for too many people, and we demand a different measure of respect.
That's right.
We demand to be resourced. We demand that the issues from our perspective and how we define it is what you endorse, right? And we demand an authentic approach to building relationships with our community and our leaders. We have to flip the script.
That's right.
2 out of the last 3 elections have been lost. National elections. That's unacceptable. The effort to suppress our votes, now with the big, ugly bill, to marginalize our vision for the country is too palatable. So I want to see, and I hope they're listening, I want to see you in the community, not just during election season.
That's right.
I want to see, and I say this with great love and respect for the tradition of African American political leaders, of which I was one. All too often, people forget. They don't come around. They don't respond. I have people call me today as though I'm an elected official. I said, call your city council person, call your mayor. They said, we've been calling.
Wow.
And we've been texting.
Right.
And we have no response. So we're in this important moment where civil rights, which is what we work for. In 1954, NAACP and its legal defense fund at the time got the United States Supreme Court made up of 9 white men, all born in the 1800s, including one that had been a card-carrying member of the Ku Klux Klan, Hugo Black, to decide 9-0 that segregation in education must end and is no longer constitutional. Today, 70 years later, we have the most vigorous, well-funded assault on those gains in modern American history. So on the line for us is whether we're going to be silent, whether we're going to get lockjaw, whether we're going to be like the lion in the Wizard of Oz with no courage, and we can't intelligently stand up. I don't care if you're in a corporate suite or you're on the street. I don't care if you live in the boulevard or you live in the alley. I don't care if you got more degrees than a thermometer, a PhD, a DD, a JD, an MD, or you like many with no D. We have to find a way to exercise our voice and to stand up. And the reason why is that generation, Thurgood Marshall, Martin Luther King, Whitney Young, Dorothy Height, Roy Wilk, I could name all of them. When they were out there fighting, they weren't fighting for themselves. They were fighting for the next generation. King said it. I have a vision for a day when my 4 little children, not a vision for when I. So our work is not just about us. It's not just about my paycheck, my house, my Bentley, my Lexus, my BMW, my Cadillac, my stock portfolio. It is about the next generation. And we have to center ourselves that right now so much is on the line. And it's a fight for civil rights, which is really a fight for equal justice, a fight for equal participation. So give these panelists a round of applause. And also, we want to give the team at Essence, Alfonso David, Richard Lou Dennis, and the team a round of applause for ensuring that we have a chance to have conversations like this. God bless. Enjoy Essence. And I want to announce, I just learned this, that at 4 o'clock on this stage, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson will be here. So spread the word, because we have to come and support her. She's in there waging important battles within the Supreme Court. And she's writing excellent dissents. She's exercising an incredible amount of intelligence and courage. So we need to come out and support Justice Jackson. All right.
Great meet. It's tied.